Hi guys, so welcome you all to day 30 of Anthropology lecture series. So we were doing marriage, we had started the topic 2.3, so let's get on with it. Yeah, so today we'll do some important terms as to which are related to marriage. First is hypergamy and hypogamy. So basically in the ancient Manu, if we talk about that, these two terms have been mentioned as anulom and pratilom, right? So basically anulom would mean, or hypergamy would mean, gamy is marriage, hypergamy would mean marrying up, that one woman should marry a man who's higher to her status, means whose status is higher as compared to her, and this is a kind of preferential marriage. Now what is a preferential marriage? We'll do it, just don't think about this term because the next topic is this only. Leave this. First thing, for example, this is woman and this is man, so the status of man or social status should be higher than that of women, right? This kind of marriage arrangement will prevail in the societies which has hierarchies, right? Like caste system, etc. So any society which is divided into hierarchies, there this kind of system will be there. Then it prevents women from losing her caste status. Obviously if woman would marry up only in the caste or any group that has higher social status, so that means she will not lose her caste status, right? Rather it will be improved only. Then the receiver is superior, like a Brahmin, obviously. Here when the woman marries a man from a higher social status, the man and his family would be considered as a more successful among the two, because here they are marrying a woman from a lower caste, right? Then dowry accompanies the bride. Of course, now any arrangement like this where there is a marriage of two unequals, it will happen with some kind of a arrangement, and that arrangement would be dowry in this case, because with dowry it will create certain kind of a balance between the two. It will try to create, I'm saying, right? So with dowry, the woman is accepted into the household of a higher social group, and that creates a kind of balance between the two. So it brings prestige to the bride's family and improving rank in the society. Now what happens is they are lower caste only, okay, but even then a certain kind of a prestige, they'll get in the society just because they have married their daughter or sister, whatever, in a family which has a high social prestige. So in that way, little bit improvement happens, but not like drastic changes is going to happen. It is going to be the same, right? And the reasons for which hypergamy will take place is, first is polygyny. Polygyny means there's one man and then many women are married to this man, because what happens is in the race of marrying to a man who's upper caste, right? What happens is all the women are tied to man which are there at the top. So for example, there are like women in the top group, then there are women in the middle group also, then there are women in the lower group also. But man, हम बात कर रहे, we are only talking about a certain section of man. So now pressure increases on these certain section of man, because everybody wants to eventually marry their daughters to them, right? So उस वजह से there is a female male imbalance among the number of people that are there. So उसकी वजह से polygyny होती है. That means there is one man but 2-3 wives he has, right? ऐसा होता है, then it creates dislike for female child. Of course, now hefty dowry and all of that will create this kind of a imbalance and dislike for women, right? So that is why this female infanticide happens, feticides happen, and then consequently, the sex ratio also gets disturbed, right? So this was about hypergamy. Now comes your hypogamy. Yeah. So hypogamy is also called pratiloma. That means marrying down than your own status. For example, these are the three social groups in a society. And for example, if the woman is from this group, she marries a man from this group. So that will be pratiloma. Now, this kind of marriage happens in Kachins of Burma, right? Kachins of Burma, this kind of marriage takes place. Then some parts of India also it takes place. Now it is believed that this kind of a marriage is asymmetric. You can say that somewhere in our society it is misfit, right? It is not proper fit into the society, the kind of society we live, because generally we live in a patriarchal society, right? Patriarchal society. So in patriarchal society, basically marrying downwards by a woman is not symmetric. That means it would not work, right? We'll see how it doesn't work, don't worry. For example, in this kind of marriage, there is payment made to the bride's family. It is made because at the end of the day, women is also an economic resource, right? If she leaves her home and enters the home of her husband, now whatever she will contribute, it will towards her in-laws family, right? So that means the parents and their household, they were deprived, or they lost on two economic hands, right? So the concept of bride price was this only. It came with this, that if the economic capacity of that household decreases because we are taking two hands away from them, so they must be compensated for that. That is why they used to give cattle or any other thing which was, any other asset to them. But the point is, over the period of time, these whole ideas got distorted, and new ideas like dowry and other kind of ideas came in. So first point is this, that in this the payment is given to the bride's family. Second thing is, they are wife receivers. Sorry, the wife receiver doesn't get high status. In the last point, we saw that it is done to, keep the status of the women, in to just keep the women's status, right? But in this case, what is happening, the woman is having more higher social status than the man. So in this case, the man is not going to get the higher social status of a woman. This is because when a woman marries, till the time she doesn't marry, she carries the name of her father, right? But after the marriage, she will carry the name of the man she's married to. So that is why, if a woman marries to a man who's from a lower social group, that means she has become now impure, or not ritually that pure that she used to be, and now she will get the status of the man, and not the man who's going to get the high social status, right? So Edmund Leach considers this arrangement as unstable in patrilineal societies. Obviously, because in a society which is so male dominated, right? You are marrying a female which has a higher social prestige than you. It is not going to work, because everything here in a patriarchal society has to be about male domination, right? But here, female has the higher social status. So I don't think even Edmund Leach thinks that it is not going to work. It creates tension in matri and patrilineals, because the woman who comes from a higher social prestige, her relatives will always exert a kind of pressure on the children, right? Just because from the fact that she comes from a more privileged background. So that will create certain tension between matrilineals and patrilineals, because patrilineals are the one who will first have the rights over the child, because it's a patrilineal society. But then there will be equal exertion from the matrilineals because they are from a good social background. So that is where, it creates a struggle. Then this kind of a marriage arrangement must have come because there was polyandry in the society. Polyandry means one female is married to two or more males, because many times it has happened in societies where female male sex ratio has also favored more males, because then there was a preference for males and their female feticides, female infanticides, that will further change the sex ratio towards being unfavorable to females na. So in that case, one female is often married to more than one male, right? Or when it was a shudra, because when you're a lower caste only, right, then where will you go? You can't bring a wife who has more lower status than you, because you having the lowest of all status, right? So then you will get a woman who has a higher social status than you. So in that case it will be hypogamy. Or when it is by capture, when you're marrying by capturing a lady or anything like that, so in that case also it could be considered as hypogamy, right? Yeah. So now if the different types of marriages come, we can also include the hypergamy and hypogamy in that. So even though those could be put into these categories, right? So now let's start. We can define different kind of marriages based on different parameters. The first we are taking as number. Number means how many spouses, right? So monogamy, mono means one, gamy means marriage, that means one partner. For let us suppose that this is a man, okay, and let me color it properly then, right, and this is a female. So if they are married together, this will be a monogamy. That means one man, one wife, they are married to each other. This often happens in the complex or modern societies, because today family stability, there are institutionalized norms that we are going to go, and often there is only in complex societies you will only find monogamy. That means one partner, one wife and one husband, right? But there is in many societies you will find polygamy as well. That means poly means anything. Either it could be like this, just imagine this, either it could be this, or it could be this, or any which ways. That means one man and two wives, or two man one wife, or more than two also. So these are the examples of polygamy, right? So if it is like there is one female and there are two or more than two partners, that there are husbands, that will be called as polyandry, right? Polyandry. Now polyandry is basically done in the societies which have more female infanticide, because kya hoga na, over the time if you're going to kill the girls just for a preference of a son, and reproduce more and more and more son, तो एक point के बाद ऐसा time आ जाएगा when you'll have more son in the group as compared to women. So now if मान लो यहाँ पे only hypothetically only 50 women are left in this group and there are like 200 men, right? So now 200 men have to be married, na? So these 50 women will be married to 200 men. So of course multiple husbands they will have, because sex ratio is not equal, right? First thing first, right? Then where the role of women is minimum. Societies in which there is no role of women in that way, so in those societies also polyandry happens, where there is higher bride price. Now what happens is, मान लो कि there are people who cannot afford to pay the family of bride for the economic loss that they are having, right? If people are poor and they do not have that much to give, it's like the same यार. अगर आज के टाइम पे डाउरी नहीं देते तो there is trouble in taking marriages taking place. But अगर bride price नहीं दोगे तो आपको लड़की नहीं मिलेगी, right? लड़की नहीं मिलेगी, then you will have to share. Might as well ऐसा हो सकता है ना कि there is a family of 4 brothers. They think कि चलो let's what we do is we pay bride price to one family and let that family marry their daughter to 4 of the sons, right? Just because they have less money to give, right? They cannot afford to have like single wife for each of them, so then they share. Then, and the women's role is only childbearing. That means women are not, they do not have so much of economic value. They are just for like so childbearing and socialization, right? So in these cases polyandry kind of a marriage takes place. And if you need to know the examples, then there will be Tibetans, Khasas, Todas, Nayars. For different tribes, the reasons are different. For example, Tibetans live on a high land, right? That means they live in hilly areas, right, where the agriculture production is not that much, because hill में रहते हैं, इतना ज़्यादा land availability is not there. So for them, if they have to marry, like for example, you just understand there are 4 brothers in a family. If they marry 4 and they have this piece of land, right? Just imagine this much only piece of land they have, right? Because scarcity of land is there. 4 brothers now. If they marry 4 individual wives, right? So that means now out of this one family, now respective 4 small families have been created. So now the piece of land which used to be this much, every family would divide their own part, right? They will all want their own part to be with them, right? So eventually fragmentation of land will happen. But if they do not marry different wives and just get one wife for each, now this one wife, every husband is important, right? And if she has children also, there is no clear cut choice that whose child is this going to be. There is collective responsibility for that child. That means now they will not fragment into 4 different families, but they will still remain a family. That means there will be no fragmentation of land. That means there is an economic reason. Just because there is so less scarcity of land, that resources are so less, that they do not afford to fragment into further smaller families, right? So that is why they need to be together. So for that reason also, if there is one wife only, then there will be no problem. Every brother will be a part of the same family. Then they will not diverge or disintegrate into smaller families, right? One is this. One reasons can be for Tibetans and Khasas, it could be a economic reason. For Todas, the reason are different. The reason is that every first daughter that they have, they will sacrifice that first daughter for to their gods and goddess, whatever. So that is a religious reason. So now if they are going to constantly sacrifice the daughter, again the sex ratio will get disturbed. So now when the sex ratio gets disturbed, there are more males to be married to less females, then polyandry is bound to happen. And in Nayars are a martial caste. Martial caste means the men are busy defending the territories of their uh, place, right? Place or whatever, they go into military, right? So when they go into military and they do not live back in the villages with the females and their children, so they have a different kind of a system altogether. That means what they do is, I'll just tell you in brief. There's a tali tying ceremony when the women hits puberty, or in that time period, or around 13 14. So there's tali tying ceremony, right? Tali tying ceremony. So with this tali tying ceremony, a male puts some kind of a mangal sutra, you can say, or some kind of something to the woman, right? And now he leaves, he becomes the ritual husband, right? And now he can go to the military thing or anywhere. He can just leave, there's no obligation by the man, but he leaves, right? After this, the woman is allowed to have sexual partners apart from this man, anybody except this man, right? But she lives with a family which is called Tharavar, which is the woman, his brother, sisters, and their children, her children, their children, all of that. So they live in a Tharavar, that is their family. So now family unit for them is very different. That means the husband is not part of this, first. Then second, there are the other sexual partners that she'll have, they are called the visiting husbands. They are also not the part of the family. And if ever this female uh, has a child, the the fatherhood will go to this man who's, the ritual husband, right? So this is how nayyars operate, and these are so obviously if the man is out and the female has multiple visiting husbands, so it is also a kind of polyandry only, right? So then polyandry can further be divided into two, that is fraternal and non-fraternal. Now fraternal से आपको समझ आना चाहिए. Fraternal means brotherhood, fraternity, right? It comes from that word. So fraternal means when you marry, for example, if she has married these two men, but these men are brothers, they are related to each other, they are brothers, right? That becomes fraternal. So fraternal आ जाएगा खासास, टोडास, लद्दाखी बोटास, all of this. And non-fraternal polyandry would be nayyars. Okay, so now I know this will become too much for you to remember, but guys, thoda you will have to put pressure on your mind and just remember certain things. I'm trying to create a story so that you remember it and do not feel tough of anything tough. Like this is a polyandry kind of a marriage, this is polygyny. So now we move to polygyny. Polygyny bhi same hi hai. There is one man and he has like multiple wives, right? And if these wives are like related to each other, then it will make a so they can be either like sister, they can be sisters or they cannot be sisters, like that, right? So polygyny bhi hoti hai. Now polygyny hoti hai when there is frequent warfare, agriculturalist and horticultural societies. So now just try to understand. अब क्या है, when the society is agriculturalist, so that means they require more hands, economic hands, right? Because जितने ज़्यादा लोग होंगे काम करने के लिए on a piece of land, the more productivity will be there, right? So the groups who are agriculturalists, right, who have plenty of land, they have no tension of fragmentation, nothing like that, so they go into polygyny kind of thing, because now this man can impregnate all of them at the same time also and have like 4-5 kids at the same time. So now the more economic hands they have, the more agricultural productivity and so on, right? And same for warfare also. For warfare you require men, and for men you need to impregnate more women at the same time. So now this man can impregnate 4 women as compared to only one if he had only one wife, right? So with this you can increase your group strength by, you know, having more children. So this kind of arrangement is found in Santals. Then Nagas. For Nagas, it is purely a status symbol, like having too many wives is a status symbol there. Like in the old times also, in the kings also used to have so many wives for like political reasons, right? There were political reasons, and then territorial expansions and diplomatic relations, status symbol, and in pre-independent Bengal due to hypergamy. We did na hypergamy here, we did this when, you know, there are so many women who all want to marry up, so then there are only few men who are there in that higher social group. So if everybody wants to marry them, so then there'll be multiple partners for one man, right? So there'll be multiple wives for one man only, right? And then it happens in certain African tribes also. So Santals, Nagas, for Nagas it's a status symbol. Then in pre-independent Bengal also due to hypergamy, and then there is certain African tribes. This was the first part where we did the differentiation, different type of marriages on number, on the basis of number. Second is on the basis of rule. Here also on the basis of rule you can put hypergamy and hypogamy also. There is no issue about that. Here we are going to read about two kind of marriages, that is prescriptive and preferential. Prescriptive, if the word gives you a hint, that means something which prescribes, which is prescribed to you, right? For example, doctor prescribes a medicine. That means doctor, you know, gives a medicine, and if you are like not well, then you will have to take those medicines, because if you want to get well, you have to take those medicines. In the same way, prescriptive rules are the ones whom you should marry, right? And this whom you should marry is not an advice, trust me. It is more of a like a hukum or an order by the society. For example, if I draw a diagram like this, yeah, sorry, this is little, yeah. So now this is family, this is your lineage, this is your gotra, and this is your caste, right? If I just assume this is a basically North India mein, this is how things operate when it comes to marriage. So in North India, more or less, there is gotra exogamy and caste endogamy. That means endo and exo means, endo means inside, exo means outside. That means gotra exogamy means the minimum unit out of which you're going to marry is your gotra. That means the gotra must not be the same. If you're going to marry a woman or you're going to marry a man, the gotra should be different. Otherwise, you know, it is considered that you're a part of the same lineage, or somewhere down the line the same family. So your brother and sister you cannot marry. And caste endogamy, that means you marry inside your caste. That means that is the minimum level of endogamy. That means then you can marry other castes also, but at least you will marry outside your gotra and then inside your caste and other. So caste endogamy, that means they try to marry within the caste but outside the gotra, right? So this is, again, this could be prescriptive, preferential, depending upon which society you are in. Like अपने रिलीजन में ही शादी करनी है, राइट? देर आर मैनी प्लेसेस जो अभी भी इसको बहुत सीरियसली लेते हैं, एंड यू नो देर आर आइडियाज़ लाइक हुक्का पानी बंद, हुक्का पानी बंद means then your amenities, your रहना खाना in that place will be severely hurt if you do not follow these rules. These are sanctions by the society. That means these are violations that society put on you, pressures that society has कि आपको ऐसे ही करना है, ऐसे ही रहना है, right? But a lot of things have changed post constitutional rights and democracies being built, but then also society has their own way of putting sanctions. So yeah, first is prescriptive. That means society has pressure and they will sanction, they have sanctions for it. Preferential is more like what is desired. There is no sanction if you do not do it. Like if you do not do it, it is not like people are going to you are going to be ostracized by the society. It's not going to happen. It is desired, but then you can prefer not to marry that way also. In this we have like preferential marriages, like cross cousin marriages. Let me just okay, wait. Okay, cross cousin marriages basically क्या होते हैं? Just let us imagine that this is one male and female. These marry and they have a kid. This kid is ego, right? So now this has a brother who's married to some other lady, and this has a sister also who's married to somebody else, and they also have a kid, and they also have a daughter. So now if this ego, that is the main character of our story, marries this girl, that is her mother's brother's daughter, यानी कि मामू की बेटी, that would be maternal cross cousin marriage. And if he marries his father's sister's daughter, that means he is going to do it paternal cross cousin marriage. क्रॉस कज़न क्या हो गया? क्योंकि अगर फादर है तो उसकी बहन की बेटी, और अगर मदर है तो उसकी भाई की बेटी. सो दैट इज़ क्रॉस कज़न. पैरेलल कज़न में क्या होता, मैं समझा दूंगी, रुक जाओ, पहले क्रॉस कज़न समझ लो, फिर मैं आपको पैरेलल कज़न भी समझा दूंगी, राइट? अच्छा, सो ये आपका मटर्नल पैटर्नल हो गया, राइट? अच्छा, सो प्रेफरेंशियल में ये क्रॉस कज़न और पैरेलल कज़न्स मैरिजेस आती हैं. नाउ पैरेलल कज़न में भी सेम ही होएगा. ये हम ड्रॉ कर लेते हैं फिर से कि दिस इज़ ईगो, दिस इज़ आर ईगो, ठीक है. अब पैरेलल कज़न में क्या होगा? ये मदर है तो मदर की एक और बहन है. उधर मदर का भाई था, बट यहाँ पे मदर की बहन है, राइट? नाउ ही इज़ मैरिड एंड शी हैज़ अ किड, शी हैज़ अ डॉटर. एंड नाउ ये भाई है तो भाई का भाई ही है. वहाँ पे भाई की बहन थी, बट यहाँ पे भाई का भाई है, एंड he also has a daughter. So if he marries here, this would be parallel cross cousin, but paternal parallel. This will be paternal parallel, this would be maternal parallel. Maternal हो गया माँ के साइड से, paternal मतलब पापा के साइड से, right? So this is parallel and that was cross cousin. कि यहाँ पे क्रॉस कज़न में सिंपल है, माँ की बहन नहीं भाई होगा और फादर की बहन होगी, राइट? पर यहाँ पे क्या होता है, पैरेलल में फादर का भाई और मदर की भी बहन, राइट? सो सेम सेक्स बेसिकली. सो पैटर्नल जो क्रॉस कज़न मैरिजेस है ना, अब आप याद कर लो, यानोमामी ट्राइब में होती है, और मटर्नल क्रॉस कज़न काचिन ऑफ बर्मा में होते हैं, राइट? सो ये एग्जाम्पल्स है कि कौन ऐसा फॉलो करते हैं. देन बस्तर ट्राइब भी फॉलो करती है मटर्नल क्रॉस कज़न, उसको दूध लौटावा बोलते हैं. दैट मीन्स बेसिकली क्या होता है दूध लौटावा? दैट मीन्स आपने अगर एक जनरेशन में डॉटर दी है तो दूसरे जनरेशन में आप उनसे डॉटर लेते हो. दैट मीन्स यू आर पेइंग, इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ म्यूचुअल रिलेशनशिप. जब एक इन वन जनरेशन you become a wife receiver, in the second generation you become a wife giver, so that whole circle gets completed, right? राइट एंड इसी एक क्रॉस कज़न मैरिज में एक थोड़ा सा पैटर्न होता है अंकल नीस. दैट मीन्स अंकल इज़ मैरिड. फॉर एग्जांपल इफ़ इस एग्जांपल में तो नहीं हो पाएगा, जैसे अगर इसकी ये बेटी होती एग्जांपल के लिए, राइट, ये बेटी होती, राइट, तो ये इससे शादी करवा देते, राइट. ईगो अगर लड़की होती और इससे शादी करा देते तो ये अंकल नीस वेडिंग हो जाती, राइट. और पैरेलल कज़न में आप याद रख लो, इट इज़ prohibited around 80% of the societies do not do this kind of marriage because due to rules of incest. Incest means marriage between very close relatives. So on that grounds it is prohibited. Most of the families do not do it, societies. But then Arabic world में आपको थोड़े से मिल जाएंगे, some central Indian tribes you will find. So these are preference. That means if any society that performs a cross cousin marriage or parallel cousin marriage, they will always prefer that ki isi through this arrangement only the wife should come. But if it comes out of any other arrangement, they would not mind it because it is just a preference and not a prescriptive kind of a marriage where it will invite social sanctions and then they'll be ostracized by the group. It's not going to happen, right? So then the last kind of arrangement would be levirate and sororate. Basically what happens is, I'll draw the two diagrams, you will be able to see this. This is a female, okay, and then right. So now this is a female, this is a female and this is a male. ये आप थोड़ा सा ध्यान रख लेना. This is a female, this is a male. So now when a female marries deceased, this is deceased, that means he is dead now, so तभी cross है. Deceased husband's brother, this becomes a levirate. Okay, this is a levirate. And sororate is when a husband marries deceased wife's sister, right? So that becomes a sororate. So basically ये इसलिए करते हैं because then एक family integrity बनी रहती है, family unity बनी रहती है. For example, what if they have a child? So now if she goes back to her own family after the husband is dead, her child will also go with him. So वो family ties, you know, they break. If she marries the younger brother, तो उसके केस में who is going to take the care of the child, वो that part is addressed. You do not need to give the bride price back if there is any, right? The family groups are, you know, further strengthened because then you take care of all your relationships, because this female, if she was left alone, she was married to this man, that means the group unity becomes more strengthened. They take care of their relationships, the children problems are not there. Similarly sororate में भी यही होगा that if any husband marries wife's sister, उस केस में भी they do it for the family ties, to create the family more strength, to give strength to the family, to take care of the child, then not to give back the dowry if any, because then if she is dead तो अब क्या करेंगे ना, right? Like that. So these have come from such ideas, right? So then other kind of marriages are group marriages. ये थोड़ा सा समझ लो, important है. I'll just clear this, I'll tell you. Group marriages में क्या होता था, like अगर हम मॉर्गन की भी बात करें, ठीक है ना, जिन्होंने एवोल्यूशन की बात करी थी, हम इनके बारे में पढ़ेंगे इन द फर्दर चैप्टर्स एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल थ्योरीज में भी. तो बेसिकली एवोल्यूशनिस्ट बोलते क्या थे, दे यूज्ड टू बिलीव दैट सोसाइटी हैज़ इवॉल्व्ड फ्रॉम बीइंग savage to barbaric to civilized. Basically in savagery we were animals, in मतलब एक तरह से with no rules of the society. We were just like hunting, living for hunting, gathering, no rules, no groups, no language, no they were, in short, they were savage. in barbarism, when agriculture came, certain societies were built, certain norms were norms came in, institutions like marriage, family, society came in, and so civilization though was marked by script, metallurgy, science and technology, philosophy, all of those civilized ideas, right? So they believed like this was the general pattern. Every other institution, be it family, be it marriage, be it religion, polity, economy, went through went through similar transitions, right? So now I'll tell you how. आप समझ गए ना? अब मैं बताती हूँ आपको how they believed this. So they believed even in the beginning there were no institution as marriage. There was primitive promiscuity. Primitive promiscuity मतलब anybody was mating with anybody and there were no promiscuity, sorry, right? So anybody was mating with anybody. So you remember, right, that to keep the group solidarity there had to be certain rules to be framed so that there is no male competition for getting female partners, right? So for that some kind of a institution came in for marriage. So the first kind of marriage that must have come would be a group marriage. Group marriage में क्या होता था basically? There'll be group of male married to group of females. So they were like, for example, 10 people married together. That means these are certain females married to certain males and they are all each other's wife and husbands, right? So this kind of a marriage was there. So again this is very primitive idea of a marriage. Then polygamy must have come. Polygamy means either one husband with more wives or one wife with more husbands, and in the civilized times monogamy has evolved. So in the times of savage तो कुछ ऐसा होता होगा, then आपका barbaric times में polygamy आ गई and monogamy in the civilized time. So this is what they believed कि ऐसे group marriages भी होते होंगे. Then ghost marriage हमने कल ही किया था कि for example there is a male who is died in a family. So now if a female is married in that family, she'd be married, for example this is a female and this is a male, they'll be married together, but they had a man who died without getting married. So even though he is married, but he will marry under the name of this deceased unmarried person in their family. So he will be given the rights of like fatherhood and all of that. So this is a ghost marriage. Matlab the person who doesn't exist, he is given the rights of being the husband or the father, whereas this person is not. So this is the ghost marriage.